It's time for the match preview, and we're going to be discussing Middlesbrough versus Luton Town. Both teams have had a win, and it's also a win for me because I get to spend this afternoon with my co-host. It's Mark Ryman. How are we getting on, Mark?
I don't know whether that's a win or not, but I take that as a compliment. Yeah, I'm getting on very well, thanks, Ollie. We won a game.
And we look convincing.
Yeah, we definitely were the only team that deserved to win it, particularly in that second half. I'm feeling more upbeat than perhaps I thought I might have been ahead of Saturday's kickoff.
That's fantastic. But now it's time to actually recap that 1-0 win against Cardiff. It's our recap. So Luton Town 1, Cardiff 0. And it was a weird one being there. I don't know if you caught my post-match, in the sense that when Luton scored, the atmosphere was still relatively flat because everyone was kind of expecting the inevitable to happen, for Luton to chuck away a lead once again. It nearly happened straight from kickoff.
What a kickoff routine.
They had a go, and it nearly caught Kaminsky out. Mad.
Yeah, I did catch your post-match. And you're right, it did sound very quiet in there. I think, we talked about this after the West Brom game. It was a messy game, and I think Cardiff started exactly the same way. So I think, it's hard to feel that inspired about how we were playing. I mean, it was a good result against West Brom, don't get me wrong. But we really needed to come out and show a bit more cutting edge. And in the first half, I don't think we really did. Different story after the sort of 55th minute or so. And I think then after that goal, the intensity of our attacks completely changed the game. And on any other day, we win that game comfortably 2 or 3-0.
Yeah, and obviously there should have been a penalty as well. Like you were watching it at home. I was out there, so I didn't actually get to see it. But you messaged me and said, nailed on penalty. Nailed on.
Handballed it
I
twice.
saw it, he slapped it.
It's bang, bang. He hit both hands. I mean, it's ridiculous. Honestly, and then, of course, to top it all off, Carlton Morris gets yellow carded for pointing out the referee that it was a clear penalty. It's infuriating, and it's a good job we won the game, because if we didn't, that's the kind of decision that will make a massive difference in whether we turn a corner this season or not. It has to be said that, the level of officiating in some of the games we've seen has been absolutely ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And I heard that Omar Rizal was complaining about the referee in terms of soft fouls as well. He did actually say, I think in his post-match, that we should have had a penalty too. So it's a nailed-on pen when the opposing manager says that too. But how he missed that is beyond me. It really is. And
Well, I saw that quote from Omar Rizza, and I thought, very, very odd statement, because I felt Cardiff really did have the rub of the green. Yeah. Yes, Luton were very aggressive, but that's what we want to see. That is the Luton of old. And also to finish off this recap, Alfie Doughty went down at the end, and it was concerning. A bit weird that we made subs, but we made them 2 minutes apart instead of batching them together, so we would have had an additional change. Like it's like the offside rule. I don't even understand substitutions anymore.
Yeah, I mean the rule is the 3 separate occasions, isn't it? Which, again, when it's that close together, makes next to no difference. The bit that got me was the fact that he came back on when clearly he shouldn't have done. It's not the playoff final. Get him off the pitch, play the last 2 minutes with 10 men. I'm not being silly, but I'd much rather draw the game than Alfie Doughty add another 3 to 4 months to his recovery time. He's so important to us. So I don't understand that decision. And, I'm not suggesting that is Rob's decision. That's down to the medical staff as well. But that did surprise me. But hopefully the fact that he did come on and want to come on when at one point it looked like he was being stretchered off is a positive thing. So we see and wait for news ahead of Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, it's not that long to wait, but it feels like it's going to be a long wait. But you know what's up next? Let's have a look at the team news ahead of Luton's trip to the Riverside. The team news for this game. So as discussed, we don't know what's up with Alfie Doughty. He limped off. I doubt he's going to... Doughty is a Doughty for this game. There's a dad joke for you. And Mads Anderson is closer, Rob said. Reece Burke, I saw him coming out the tunnel dressed up head to toe in tracksuit stuff. So he kind of looked like he was in Boys to Men. That group from the 90s.
Oh, I know who you mean.
Yeah, of course. He looked like a Backstreet Boy. And Brewell Waters, who's a long-term absentee. Rob did say there will be changes, but I don't know if that will be the case. I guess we'll have to see, right?
I mean, you'd hope in midfield, at least there will be, because as we discussed in our previous pod, we've got plenty of options there, haven't we? And, changes from the starting lineup. I know Shander Baptiste came on for a fair chunk of the second half. Nakamba came on for the last 8 minutes. You would hope or expect at least one of those two to start the next game. For me, I think Clark needs a rest. I think he's less effective away from home as well. We've had that conversation. Doesn't deserve the stick that he gets, but I think for an away game like the one we've got with Boro, I don't know. I feel like a bit more solidity in there, and maybe the same for Chong. In defence, though, we've got Holmes to come back as well, and I must say, looking at the lineup on Wednesday night, how strong that bench looked. That was nice. It was nice to see players. Yeah, it was really nice. It's nice to see Eli being able to come on for the last 20, 25 minutes or something and have that option.
Joe Taylor, though.
No, Joe Taylor, no. But I think, none of us are that surprised about Joe Taylor, are we? I mean, we've talked that one to death. I think I think minds are made up, let's put it that way, on that one. But yeah, you'd hope for some change in midfield. I don't know about defensively because we were so good. And unless this is the difficult one, isn't it? But you've got to judge it on Mengi and Bell's fitness. But I'd be really gutted to see Bell out of that side. He just brings so much to that defence. He was excellent again, I thought, last night. So maybe Eli starts instead of Brown. But yeah, hopefully in midfield.
Yeah, it's got to be fresh because the midfield ran so much. Like Krause, where he came off a bit earlier, so hopefully that will aid his recovery. And at times, Krause was probably the best player on the pitch. Yeah. Absolutely phenomenal signing, and I'm glad we have him for the season. Although it's very unlikely we'll get him at the end of the season. And Nakamba looked good when he came on. I know this is like erring back into recap territory, but he looks sort of back to his best. He was breaking up play. His passes were good. There was a moment where he got it to Baptiste and everyone was shouting, shoot! And he ends up just passing it straight to the opposition. I guess with a rotation, maybe people like Baptiste and Liam Walsh, that they will get that momentum together, get more confidence, and that will help. But I feel like freshening it up from the start, maybe going Krause, Nakamba, and Baptiste, or essentially having Krause and Nakamba together and one of Walsh or Baptiste, it makes it so much more fresh.
Yeah.
And gives us so much more zip.
Yeah, exactly that. And they're a quick team, aren't they? And it's a big pitch. And I think you want that extra solidity of having Nakamba and Krause. That would be my three. Nakamba, Krause, Baptiste, and have players like Chong to come on and make the difference if they need to. I think would be fantastic. The way that Eli was getting in behind at will almost for the last 15 minutes of that game. With all due respect to Eli, he's not Chong in terms of his pace. And that would be a very different prospect, particularly if Boro are chasing the game or looking to score a winner. So, no, I completely agree. And for me, Krause was man of the match last night. I think he was the man of the match given at the time as well. You can please correct me if I'm wrong.
I was only watching on
TV.
I couldn't hear anything.
It might have been Brown because he scored the goal, but for me, it was Krause. He was excellent again. He just absolutely full of energy, constantly pressing. And what really impressed me is in the last sort of 10 minutes, he was still pushing to press. He was usually the furthest man forward at times to try and press their back line, not letting them get out. So yeah, for me, that's a really good option. And Eli gives us that extra height from crosses, wherever that comes from, if Doughty's unfit.
Yeah, it's defence where the questions have to be asked, because as it stands, I think Tom Holmes is the only one that could potentially come in. Can Amari Bell and Ted Mengi go again? I guess instead of trying to dribble it out, well, Amari was dribbling it out, but Mengi was just boot it. Just get it away from me. I don't want to run around and defend. I'm just going to clear it to the other end of the pitch, which I don't mind so much. I don't mind that at all. But I guess we'll see with Doughty likely to miss out how we shape up. Maybe Victor Moses takes the place of Alfie Doughty.
You'd think so, because that's what happened at West Brom. So you would see that's likely to be the case, right? Victor Moses went left wing back and Hashioka went right wing back. So you'd imagine he does that if Doughty's unfit, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's have a quick look at some of the previous encounters between Luton Town and Middlesbrough. As always, I'm going to put the Hatters Heritage link down below in the description. Whether you're listening or watching on YouTube, check it out. It will have every single game that we've played against Middlesbrough since the dawn of time. Well, actually, the dawn of the two football clubs. But it's a great resource. Please use it and consider becoming a patron of Hatters Heritage, because they need your support to preserve the history of our club. But FOTMob, they have the benefit of the last 8 games. Now, I'll say it's quite evenly spread. What do you think the spread is?
You see, look, I always do these ones based on my very poor memory without looking on purpose, because I want to see how much I can remember. In my head, it's not been a great hunting ground for us at Riverside, although we have had a couple of results. Ryan Tunnicliffe springs to mind, and obviously the most recent home game against them just before the playoffs, we beat them, of course. Well, we beat their B team, but we did beat them.
We beat the under-21s.
We beat the exactly, yeah. That penalty from Morris. So I would say they probably edge it, but especially at their place. But I wouldn't be surprised, knowing what my memory's like, if it's not.
Last 8 games, Middlesbrough have won 3. Luton have won 3, and there have been 2 draws.
Okay, so exactly even then.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about that. One game that really sticks in my mind is Luton's first game back in the Championship under Graham Jones, the curtain opener for the Championship, where we saw the best and worst of Sluga in one game.
Of course, yeah. I was at that game. Such a great atmosphere. One that I didn't think would get beaten, and of course it did when we ended up playing Watford and Sunderland in the promotion season. But that Sonny Bradley goal will live long in the memory, won't it?
The noise when that went in, and that was like down our end as well, was fantastic, the hit.
I remember being mesmerised by the fact that we had digital advertising hoardings and goals that ended further back, because our goals prior to that were like, five-a-side
straight
goals.
down.
Straight down, yeah. I couldn't believe it. I thought,
it was
God, who do we think we are? Yeah.
It was amazing, yeah. Like seeing the transformation of the grounds with the scaffolding above the exec boxes as well. I was thinking, wow, this looks amazing.
Big time. We're in the big time.
No expectations. Look, the camera's on that side now. Incredible.
Yeah. They still have the ladder out above Block C in the main stand though, just to keep us down to earth on that side. But yeah, I mean, it was one hell of a night, wasn't it? But you're right, Sluga went from hero to zero very quickly in that game.
So what game between Middlesbrough and Luton sticks in your mind?
Yeah, probably that one. But obviously the last one that we played, even though it didn't have much riding on it, and both teams were sort of preparing for the playoffs, But for a lot of us, it was an indication of what we thought might happen at Wembley. But I think we were both the two fancied teams to make the final of the playoffs that year. And, you know, getting a win over Carrick, regardless of the teams put out, I think was a really important step towards that push in the semi-final and final as well. Because obviously they'd been on a pretty poor run. Our form was okay, but obviously since we realised Sheffield United were pretty much guaranteed to be promoted automatically, it tail off a little bit. So I think just the confidence that game gave us to think we could actually do this, I think is, sticks out for that reason.
Yeah, and to be honest, even after that game, I was quite happy that Cov did them over in the playoff semi-final, because I was actually dreading meeting Middlesbrough in the final. It was, you know, I just didn't want that to happen, because I felt on the big Wembley pitch, I think Middlesbrough would have done us over with their A team.
With their A team, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But right, let's have a look at the opposition. And this will be an interesting one, because we're going to kick it over to Phil, who's meeting with the Boro Breakdown.
Thank you very much, Mark and Ollie, and welcome to everyone. Thank you very much, Mark and Ollie, and welcome to everyone that's listening to the Opposition Podcast preview with me, Philip Macbeth Seath. Today, I'll be speaking to the Boro Breakdown Podcast. Looking forward to our 12:30 kickoff away at the Riverside against Middlesbrough this week, and ourselves, we're off of a 1-0 victory against Cardiff City. The game against Cardiff City was overall really quite positive. I think that there was a lot of silence, to be told, in the first half. It wasn't the sort of game that got the crowd going particularly to start off with, but ultimately we were resolute. We didn't give away particularly too many chances. I think that I counted 2 headers from Cardiff and a shot from the halfway line, which Kaminsky had way under control. So the reality of it is that we played very well against a team that were in really, really good form. The scoreline could have looked completely different if we get given a blatant penalty in that first half. But we managed to put the game to bed with a bullet header from Jacob Brown. And we saw come into fruition the fact that we've got our starting back three. I think most people would agree that McGuinness is the centre of the centre three backs, with Mengi and Bell either side. They were just so strong, and they've shown in the past 2 games just how valuable they are and just how heavily missed they were when they weren't inside. Going forward, Clark had a bit of a difficult game. I'm not going to sit here and defend him to the hilt. I thought that he had one of his more difficult games, but ultimately he was up against Ruben Colwill, who's one of the players that we looked at in the opposition preview as a real danger for Cardiff City. So he had a real tough job, and I thought that he went about his business. It's just that we wanted a bit more from him on the ball. Tom Krause had a really good game. He harried himself around the pitch, and he built up the crowd as best as he possibly could. And ultimately, props should go to Jacob Brown, because he got the winning goal, and he got his 60 minutes in, which I'm sure was probably pre-planned with Rob Edwards. And Adebayo came on, and he was absolutely magnificent, carrying the ball, pulling defenders around. It was a really, really professional performance for the 3 points at home underneath the lights, and I think most Hatters walked away in a weird, subdued atmosphere, but ultimately very happy that we're making progress. We move forward, though, to Middlesbrough at the weekend. It'll be interesting to see how we change things up, whether or not we utilise that bench and put a few more of those players, whether Adebayo gets a start, for example. Maybe it'll be him and Brown up top. Who knows? It might be a case of Morris having the rest out of those 3. But the reality of it is that Doughty probably won't be in the team. He took a very, very heavy knock, and there's been various different rumblings about why he went back on, and I can understand it. I think when you're chasing those 3 points and it's so tight, if it was 2-0, perhaps he goes off and we deal with the last 4 or 5 minutes with 10 men. But the reality of it was that we were only 1-0 up. They were pushing, and he at least occupied someone, made people pass around him that ate up a few vital seconds. So I didn't enjoy seeing him run around. But the reality of it is, again, like I say, he's done his job, and I hope that he gets the chance to recover and he didn't do any further damage whilst he was on there. So moving forward, the Boro Breakdown is coming up. Here's what they had to say to me about our game this Saturday lunchtime. So everyone, as promised, I've got Jonny here from the Boro Breakdown. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, Jonny. It's a pleasure to have you along. I always start off with getting the guests on the show to share their socials first things first, so you can hopefully get a few more followers to the tally. So Jonny, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about Boro Breakdown and where people can give you a follow.
Yeah, of course, mate. You can find us at the Boro_Breakdown on Twitter and just search for the Boro Breakdown Podcast on your podcast providers and on YouTube. And hopefully we should come up. And we're a Middlesbrough podcast. We've been doing it for about 5.5, 6 years now. So it's been going for a while. Built up quite a bit of following now and established. But we love it. We love it. So that's where you can find us.
Excellent, top man. Yeah, like I say, you're well established now. You know the drill with this stuff, so don't need to worry about that. But in terms of how you're doing, Jonny, you must be absolutely on a massive high from an away win, because there's been similarities between Luton's form and Middlesbrough's form over the last sort of 5-6 games. They've been sort of a little bit sketchy, but to go away, regardless of what the situation is at QPR, and get a 4-1 away win. That's a really big result moving into the weekend.
Yeah, it was a massive win for us, to be honest. And to be honest, I feel like the way I'm going to describe Middlesbrough probably in this is inconsistently consistent. There's some unbelievable performances. We've had some great results as the season's gone on so far, but then we've had some absolute car crashes at the same time. And as part of that, you just don't know whether you trust the team at all, because they can be great and could be chalk and cheese at the other end. So, but massive win. Really, really happy with the result. We weren't really great, but it was just 4 bits of quality that got us the 4 goals. Not too sure if you've seen them, but 3 assists in the game. Excellent. And then the Dan Barlaser goal where he decides to play a 1-2 off the QPR defender and then bend it round the keeper. So, really delighted about the result. But in terms of our season, inconsistently consistent.
I mean, it's one of those ones though. It's interesting to hear that, because the reality of it is that there must be a tinge of frustration then, because when you look at the table, and I know that the Championship table is one of those ones where it can belie how good things have actually been. But you're on 21 points. You're in 8th, like a win over us at the weekend, and you're back in the playoffs. I would suggest. So I guess it's a case of stitching that consistency together, isn't it?
Yeah, 100% it is. Like, you know how crazy this division is, like we've both been here for like a while, obviously about the seasons that we've had in the Premier League, 1 season each. So, like we are a little bit frustrated because for the last couple of seasons, we've put up some really good numbers. We're creating a lot of good chances. The first year under Michael Carrick, we had arguably the 2 out of the 3 best strikers in the league with Bakpom and Cameron Archer, who were firing goals for fun. This last season, Elaf went on a bit of a hot streak and scored 18, but we were still scoring a lot of goals and creating chances. And then this year we've created a lot. We're having a lot of touches in the opponent's box, but we're just not getting the shot away, or, we're being really wasteful. And then you'll feel a bit of tension in the ground, and then we'll go and make a mistake, and then we'll concede off like their 1 or 2 shots on target. And then you're really frustrated because you've dominated a game in theory, but then came away with nothing. And I would say we're slightly frustrated, but it's that typical phrase, isn't it? Once it clicks, you're going to be up there. Everything's going to be rosy. But we'll see how that goes. There was a great result last week. We've had some great results already this season. But it depends what Boro shows up, I guess, on Saturday, because when we played Coventry, we were pretty much out of the game in the first 10-15 minutes with the red cards, and then it was just, you were never going to get a result there, and Coventry are our bogey team, but since we've just sacked Mark Robbins, we might actually be able to beat them now. But a bit frustrated, but it's promising.
It's one of those things that I was actually going to mention Mark Robbins sacking as part of this, because I was going to say to you, I've been quite a keen advocate of Boro, since the last couple of years, especially last year. I sort of quite strongly tipped you because I thought it's Carrick's first full season, because he was absolute fire when he took over halfway through the season before, and I thought that having that experience of a part season and then being able to sort of take take a full one. I mean, what's the sort of feeling like with Carrick being in charge? I mean, obviously, is it a case of you would expect this season to be the sort of the breakthrough season where he sort of puts everything together, and has it been a frustration because of that, or is he still sort of like seen in high esteem? What's the sort of vibe for him?
Well, I personally love Michael Carrick. I think he's great. You know, we play some good football. It's probably the best you can kind of say we've played in terms of a full like package team this year in terms of technical level. Because that first year he came in, defensively we were very, very suspect, where we were entertainers, we were outscore you, and it was great to watch and it was really fun. His first full season last year was a case of you had a big turnover in players because we had a lot of loan players at the time, you know, and we also lost Chua Brackpom as well. And, you know, you're having to rebuild the squad and then you don't have as much budget to play with. And you end up bringing in people who will take time to develop in the league. And last year, I think we lost most of the first game. I think we only won one game out of the first 9. And we were bottom of the league. And it was really difficult, but you were playing all right. And then it seemed to click from that, which is hilarious. Yeah. I was just saying it's that typical phrase of football, but it did work in the end. And we started going a really good run towards the back end of last season. And then this year, it was being okay, we need to probably go for playoffs this year. If we don't get it, it's probably a failure. And, you know, we've invested quite well in the team. We still are maybe 1 or 2 players short in terms of really good quality. But the overarching team, the manager, it should be positive, but you always have that 10-20% of fans when things don't go the way. It's manager out, sack the board, sack all the players. But then when you win, you're the greatest team in the world. So, but I think the big like message from both fans is that they still really like Michael Carrick as a manager.
No, that's good. That's good to hear. I mean, it's one of those ones like I said to you before we got on here, I wouldn't talk too much about Luton. I apologise, it's habit, but but it's one of those ones. At the moment, we're sort of in a weird situation with Rob Edwards because this time last year, he was like, regardless of results, he was the absolute darling of Luton, and I don't think anyone's like calling specifically for him to be out. But it is one of those ones. I think there's a little element of worry actually within the Luton fans because they see about the change in demeanour of Rob Edwards and how difficult he's actually finding the sort of acclimatisation of coming back down to the Championship, and how you can't play as pretty a football without Ross Barkley and Sambi Lokonga in the middle of the park. You know, so it's been a bit of an adjustment. Let's put it that way. And getting the win last night was massive, just to sort of keep us in touch with people really, because we were. Potentially going to get cut adrift. But going back to Middlesbrough, I apologise, but going back to Middlesbrough, I saw that yesterday. I mean, I say I saw it yesterday. I was looking and doing my sort of research, and it had you lined up as like a 4-2-3-1 type thing on when I looked at the sort of BBC Sport website and everything like that. Is that accurate, Jonny? Is that sort of your typical formation that you're going with, especially at home?
Yeah, definitely. We've played that system for a long time. There's only really every now and again we would move to a back 3 in certain games. You know, when we played Chelsea last year in the Cup, back 3. We played Leicester away, back 3, and it really worked. It was a good balance for us. You know, as you probably know, Phil, like teams now are in game the moving formation based on where they are on the pitch and when in possession. When Boro in play and they've got the ball, it's definitely a back 3. You normally see the left back bomb forward, or the right back will bomb forward, and then you'll try and cause overloads on the wings. But what Riley McGree does very well is that he'll move inside, so you do create a bit of a box midfield. Mm-hmm. But it's a 4-2-3-1 set really, and we've played that for a while. The front 4s seem to have really clicked in Tommy Conway, Finn Azaz, Riley McGree, and Ben Doak as well, who have just seemed to all understand each other's game. But then when you can bring on Lath and terrorise defenders in that last 15 minutes, it seems to have worked so far. But yeah, we do play in that 4-2-3-1, but you will see Boro move in different shapes as they get up and down the pitch.
I mean, it's one of those things. It's a necessity now, isn't it? That fluidity of formation, and it can sometimes be frustrating to the sort of untrained eye because you're kind of thinking where the hell are they all going. But there's method to it, obviously, to the professionals that get paid what they do, and it's one of those ones because you just mentioned about the sort of like that sort of box of four in there, and because I was actually looking at the team and thinking about the tight turnaround because obviously it's another sort of early kick-off on the Saturday, and this will be the third game in sort of 7 or 8 days for the both of us. Do you foresee there being any sort of significant sort of changes? Because I think that from our point of view, it's been touted that just because of us playing last night as well, that there might need to be sort of 3 or 4 changes to sort of freshen it up. Do you see that being the same case for Boro, or do you feel like it's going to be much the same?
I think we'll have 2 or 3 changes for sure. I can definitely see Hayden Hackney coming back in because he was suspended for Jonny Howson. I can see obviously there's going to be a forced change with Neto Borges being ill and has an illness at the moment. So we will either see 2 things. One will be Luke Ayling will play left back and then Dijksteel will play right back, or they'll put Matt Clark left back and then bring Dale Fry back into defence with Edmondson, because then you're still able to play that back 3 with a natural left footer on the left, and then Dijksteel will go a bit further forward. And Ben Doak has played a lot of games and a lot of minutes. We rested him against Coventry. He was brilliant against QPR. He has had a really bad injury, Ben Doak, from the season prior with Liverpool. So we are trying to manage his minutes. So you might see either Michael Hamilton or Isaiah Jones come in on that right-hand side. And then other than that, you won't see too many changes from the side that beat QPR. So, 2 or 3 I'm expecting. Not really seeing massive wholesale changes, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that seems about fair. I think it is one of those times. It's that time of the season where it's sort of game management, and obviously it's only going to get more difficult after the last international break for a while. So it'll go into full pandemonium over the Christmas period in this crazy league that we play in. So, so it leads me up to my final question, Jonny, and it's how do you see the game going, and can I get a prediction out of you if possible?
You'll get a prediction on me, Phil. Yeah, you will. But the game, it's going to be so interesting though, this game, because I don't know, for whatever reason it hasn't really clicked for Luton so far this season. When I've watched you, it's just been like I don't know. It's just like you alluded to a little bit. We don't have that quality there in midfield. It felt like something's just missing. And I couldn't put my finger on it. And I was like, there's quality there. The squad's really good. Like, it's definitely top-end championship caliber. It's a big game, I would say, for Rob Edwards as well, because I feel like he needs to get a result. There's a manager who's just came available who is very, very good in this league.
Yeah. It's not that far down the road either. It's not that far from us, from Coventry. So
exactly. So, it depends what Mark Robbins would want to do there if he would ever take the Luton job. And for us, we've done a lot better with teams that don't come and sit in like a low block back 4 or like midfield 5 and just one up front and make it really difficult to catch us on the break. If it's going to be a game where both teams are wanting to play, we tend to have more success, I would say. When we've played Leeds this year in the Cup and beaten 3-0, beat West Brom, beat Sheffield United, those games were, might have been slow paced, but Boro had the ability to play and really be able to dominate in certain moments. And we had that bit of quality where we've scored and won the game. So I'm hoping for more of the same in this one, to be honest. I can't see Luton not wanting to try and pick up a result because they have to.
Yeah.
Because like you said there, you don't want to get cut adrift so early in the season like we did last year. So I do think Luton will score. I do think that Boro might edge it though. I think that it's going to be I think it's going to be a fun game. I think we're quite tense early doors, but as the game opens up, I think it could be a 2-1 Middlesbrough win, unfortunately, Phil. So, but I have to predict a win. I can't come on and say we're going to get beat, so I'm going to go for a 2-1.
No, I appreciate the confidence, mate, and you give good reasoning for it. I think you're right. There is just, it's getting better. And it's like I said I used that word earlier on in the show about like it's acclimatizing. I think that we're just trying to get back to our championship sort of roots, if you know what I mean. Like we were good in the championship for a good 2-3 seasons before we went up, and we're sort of trying to acclimatize back to that. I think that you'll see a lot more of trying to pick out our target men. Obviously, Adebayo had a bit of a rest. He had an hour's rest, and Jacob Brown started last night. So it might be that it's Adebayo and Brown up front. But either way, we'll play with two sort of target men and it's ultimately just to try and release that pressure, because sometimes we do bypass our midfield. I think that's the bit that we're still struggling to get to grips with. And we've got Jordan Clark, who's a nifty little player, and you've got Tom Krause, who we've brought in on loan, and he loves a good kick. he's a bit of an ankle biter, and he loves getting involved. But and he can play a through ball pass, but he's not ultimately what we had last year. So we're still trying to adapt. We'll probably be without Alfie Doughty as well, who is arguably our biggest output of assists, because he took a blow right at the end of the game last night, and he barely hobbled off the pitch. So I'd be astounded if he plays, which will be a big loss for us, because he's a proper player, Alfie Doughty. So I can totally understand your prediction. I'm not going to agree with it, but I can understand it. But anyway, Jonny, thank you so much for giving me your time this evening, and it's been really lovely to chat to you. And like I said, I hope that you enjoy the game on Saturday, and it's a good game like you predicted it would be. And thank you very much for joining me.
No problem at all, Phil. I really enjoyed being on and speaking to you, so thank you again.
Top man. Thanks, Jonny. So there we go, everyone. That was Jonny from the Boro Breakdown giving his prediction of a 2-1 Boro win. I hope from a Luton Town's perspective that doesn't pull off, but it was lovely to speak to him and get that insight about Boro. They seem to be sort of weirdly in a happy place despite their inconsistencies. They're happy with their manager. They're happy with the way that they play. And they're hopeful that we'll go up there and try and play our way towards a win, because I think that's going to play into their hands. So we'll see how that goes. But thank you very much for listening to my part of this of the big match preview, and I'm going to hand back to Ollie and Mark. Take it away, guys.
Thank you, Phil. Smashed it. Absolutely enjoyed that. Right, now it's time for us to have a look at the opposition. So, Mark, Michael Carrick's Middlesbrough, they are an interesting, albeit inconsistent beast, aren't they?
They are up there with the most unpredictable team in the Championship, and you just don't know what you're going to get. They've had some stinking performances. They've had some absolutely dominant performances without somehow getting the ball in the back of the net.
You're still here.
Sorry, my I don't know what's happened there. I think my phone rang at the same time. I'll just decline that. Okay, sorry. Can I go back from there?
Of course you can.
Yeah, they're certainly the most inconsistent side in the league, aren't they? They've gone from some absolute stinking performances to ones where they've should be winning 7-8-0 and somehow fail to get the ball in the back of the net. But of course, they lead up to the Luton game on a 4-1 away win. Look, they've got a good side. We've said this from the start on all of our pods. Their attacking prowess is scary, and if they're in form, players like Conway, Finn Azaz, what a player he is that they got from Plymouth, and of course Latte Lath, who scored all those goals last season, I think has scored in this game as well within a minute of being on the pitch. So, yeah. They've got players that can hurt us, plus players we know about as well. Isaiah Jones, I think he might be injured at the moment, which would be a blessing for us. Mind you,
He's rapid.
They've got Luke Ayling there, who we know what player he is from his time at Leeds as well. So look, yeah, they've got a very attacking team, and it'll be a tough trip to the Riverside, as it always is. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm worried, because I think we have started to turn a corner, and I think that Luton fans will probably not expect it to go there and win, but I think we can put a decent showing up. But yeah, they've certainly got the players that can hurt us.
Yeah, they do. The one small solace for me is their home form is amongst the worst in the division. They're 16th on home form alone. I think they've only won maybe 2 or 3 times at home, 2 or 3 draws, and then the rest are losses. And in their last 5, they've lost 3-0 to Cov, which is an interesting one, considering Coventry felt it necessary to terminate Mark Robbins, which we'll talk about in Champ Chat.
It's, they sacked him.
Mad.
I don't want listeners to think that they've done a full like Arnold Schwarzenegger on him. But yeah.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah, crazy. But carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's mad. It's mad, and they lost 2-0 to Bristol City as well at home. But then they've turned out performances like Sheffield United, beating them, and they definitely travel better. But they are very inconsistent, and they got Hayden Hackney back for this one as well. But ultimately, you mentioned Azaz, tremendous player, attacking wise. Like they got Conway, who's absolutely rapid and a deadly finisher up top. He's their top scorer at the moment. But then they got Riley McGree, Ben Doak, who'll probably be filling in for Isaiah Jones, who, as you say, injured. I'm delighted because he's always been very tricky when he plays against Luton. And yeah, this is one that they have goals in that team, and they seem to be scoring the goals now, as opposed to like a few weeks ago where they needed 100 chances just to score 1 goal.
Yeah, I suppose it was always going to happen at some point when you've got those quality of players, same as what we said with Coventry as well, right? That we know they can find the back of the net. I think Lascelles did that last season as well. He started off quite poorly in front of goal, and then all of a sudden the floodgates opened. But you're right, their home record isn't great. Neither's was Coventry's until we went there, worth pointing out. But, I think it really does depend on whether we can deal with their pace going forwards. And I think that's where our conversations about our midfield are going to be important there. I think players like Tom Krause are going to be incredibly important in a game like that. And of course, Nakamba for obvious reasons in cutting out their play. We talk about it being won and lost in midfield. I think with Middlesbrough in the past, it's been won and lost on the wing. It's always been their sort of wide players getting past them. I mean, obviously now with Finn Azaz, someone in the middle that is a bit more of a kind of forward-thinking playmaker, then maybe that changes slightly. But yeah, it's going to be tough, but it's really hard to call, isn't it? Because I think Luton have really started to pick up form at home, but away from home, most evidence suggests that we're still a fair way off. We certainly were in our last away game. Whereas, as you say, Boro's almost the other way round now. So 0-0.
Well, that brings us on to score predictions.
Well, it's close because I've gone 1-1.
Ooh. Okay.
Similar to the reasons that I've said, I think it's a really hard game to predict. I don't know what Luton are going to turn up, whether we've learnt the lessons from the last 3-game week or not. And I don't know what Boro are going to turn up either. So in those circumstances, I'll go play it safe and go for a draw. I think both teams have the capability of hurting the other, quite different as well. But yeah, energy levels, last game of a 3-game week before the international break. We don't know Doughty's fitness either. So many unknowns. I just couldn't call it. So yeah, 1-1.
So for those who don't know me, when it comes to football, I'm a very superstitious person. And I predicted Cardiff to lose. And then in our championship predictions, I made them the lock of the week, just to lock down that superstition.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then Luton beat Cardiff. So for that reason, I've gone Middlesbrough 2, Luton 1. And that is before I even know if we're going to be making any changes to the starting lineup. I think if we do make changes to the starting lineup, especially in midfield, and we have that energy, have those players that can hunt down the ball, passing players that Boro have in the middle, put a reducer in on Jonny Housen, Hayden Hackney, just, let them know they're there, then I think we can get something. But after that Cov away performance, we need to show as well in a 3-game week that we can bring the fitness, bring the motivation, bring an actual performance to the table. So yeah, I've backed Boro to win this one, but that is purely for a superstition reason, which I'm hoping not to jinx, but I am backing Luton providing we make the changes to the starting lineup.
Well, if we keep winning games that you back us to lose, you're going to have to keep backing us to lose, Ollie, I'm afraid.
I know. It's not going to help me out in this Luger Sticks prediction league, though.
It's a sacrifice I'm willing to take.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Like, personal pride over Luton Town continuing to win. I will back them to lose every single week, except against Watford. Actually, no, I have to back us to lose against Watford as well for the magic to keep happening, right?
Yeah, maybe. That's a different conversation. Luckily, we don't have to worry about that again for a while.
Indeed. But that's us done for this week. And if you enjoy Luton Town content, please remember, like this video and subscribe for even more of it across our YouTube channel. A big thank you to the Record Shop in Amersham for sponsoring the podcast. And if you're in Amersham and you collect vinyl, remember, check out their wares. They got vinyl for days. And if you mention the OK Football Show and point to the poster of us up on their wall, you'll get a discount. Just be nice about it. But we got this. Come on, you Hatters. To the Riverside we go.